We're talking today with Mr. Arthur Thorsen of Muskegon, Michigan. The interviewer is James Smither of the Grand Valley State University Veterans History Project. Now, Mr. Thorsen, can you start by telling us a little bit about yourself? To begin with, where and when were you born?
I was born in Muskegon,
In what year?
1923.
All right. And what did your family do at that time?
My dad was a factory worker.
Okay. And did he keep his job through the 30s, or did he have to change jobs?
He
You could stay in the same place?
same place.
All right. And then, did you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, I had 4 sisters and 3 brothers.
Mm-hmm. And were any of the brothers older than you?
Yes. He was in the service too.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, did you finish high school?
No,
When did you leave school?
that was great.
All right. And,
I joined the Navy,
all right. And how old were you when you did that?
17.
Okay. Did you need your parents' permission?
Yes.
Okay. And were they willing to let you go?
Yep.
Okay. Now, when did you enlist?
In 41.
Okay. And that was before Pearl Harbor?
Before Pearl Harbor.
All right. Now, were you paying attention to the news in the world? Did you know there was a war going on in
Yes.
Europe? Mm-hmm.
I figured I'd be drafted.
Okay. And so you maybe would pick your service ahead of time?
Yeah.
Why did you choose the Navy?
Well, it was that wouldn't want to be a soldier.
He's used to taking the boats off.
Okay. Had you been out sailing on Lake Michigan before, or things like that? Had you been on boats before when you were a kid?
Little boats,
Okay.
rowboats, and
Right. That kind of thing.
small sailboats.
All right. After you enlisted, where did you go for training?
Great Lakes.
Okay, so that's in Chicago. All right. What can you describe a little bit the basic training there? What did you do?
I don't remember that. That's so long ago.
Okay. Did you have to learn Navy discipline and the rules
Yes.
and that kind of thing?
And then I went to service school in Detroit.
All right. And what were you learning there?
It's supposed to be towards the mechanical and
Mm-hmm.
the machinist.
Okay. And how long were you doing that?
I was there for, I don't know, 6 months or so.
Okay. Well, where were you when Pearl Harbor happened?
I was in Boston.
Okay. Was that after Detroit?
Yes.
Okay. And what were you doing in Boston?
I was on the Kilauea
And what was that?
ammunition ship.
Okay. Had you been out to sea yet on that ship, or were you just starting with it?
We was coming up the East Coast,
Mm-hmm. Where did you board that ship?
Norfolk, I think.
All right. And how did you get out to Norfolk from Detroit?
Well,
Did they put you on a train and send you down, or?
I don't remember.
Okay. All right. Now, describe the Kilauea a little bit about how big was it? How fast would it go?
Well, it was an ammunition ship.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anything about the speed or
Okay. Was it about the size? Well, was it about the size of a Liberty ship, or was it bigger or smaller?
About
About that size. Okay. And what were your duties on that ship?
This is down in the engine room.
Okay. And what would you do down there?
You check the gauges and kept this thing running.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And can you describe a little bit that first trip from Norfolk up to Boston as your first time kind of out at sea, really? What was that like?
It wasn't too bad. First time I went out in the North Atlantic, I got sick.
Mm-hmm.
I was on the Philadelphia then.
Right. Okay. So, do you remember? So, had you just been on the Kilauea just a short time when Pearl Harbor happened? Just go out to Norfolk, get on the ship, go up the coast.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, once Pearl Harbor happened, Did anything change? Were you going to do things differently now?
No,
So what was your next assignment then?
the Philadelphia.
Okay, so you went from the ammunition carrier just on that one trip, and now you went on the Philadelphia. Okay, now describe the Philadelphia for us. What kind of ship was that?
That was a light cruiser.
All right. And do you have any idea how old it was? Was it a World War I ship or more recent?
No, I've got the information on it, but I don't remember.
Mhm.
It was a light cruiser.
Light cruiser, okay. And once you boarded it, what was your first mission, or what were you doing then?
We would make runs from the East Coast to Scotland.
Mm-hmm. And can
Go
you
up
just...
the first or fourth
Mm-hmm.
to Greenock,
Mm-hmm.
and then farther up the river was the bay was Glasgow.
Right. Okay. Can you describe your first trip in the North Atlantic?
You got rough,
Mm-hmm.
and I used to watch those destroyers out there.
Mm-hmm.
They'd the bow would come out of the water, and you look at it, and I'll see the screws would be turning,
Mm-hmm.
and then they disappear.
Right.
You know, if I ever get on one of them, I'll be done.
Oh, well.
I got back, I got transferred,
Right.
and
Now, when you were on that first cruise with the Philadelphia, you were doing convoy escort?
yeah,
All right. And when was that trip? Was that early '42 then, or
yeah.
okay? And did you have any problems that time with German submarines?
That's why they would go way up north,
Mm-hmm.
because they can't operate in that rough water. They're better to be up there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, how many of those trips did you make?
You know, quite a few.
Okay. And so how did you do that through most of 1942, back and forth?
Yeah.
All right. Now, on any of those trips, did you encounter German submarines, or did your convoys always get through?
Well, some of them didn't make it.
Mm-hmm. And the Philadelphia, as a light cruiser, that wouldn't normally do anti-submarine warfare, would it?
No,
No. So what was it there for?
just be there, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Were you worried that there might still be some German surface ships out there or something like that? Or aircraft, maybe?
Yeah. They used to say, next time we come over, we're going to make the run to Murmansk,
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Russia.
yeah.
And that's the one where they sunk half of them.
Mm-hmm. That was dangerous. And there you might encounter surface ships because the Germans were up in Norway. Yeah, as well as
We
aircraft.
never got there.
Mhm.
We had an admiral aboard. He wasn't going to go up there.
All
It was a
right.
flagship.
Now, when you went over to Scotland, did you get shore leave at all? Could you?
Yeah, we could go.
All right.
I went up to Glasgow.
Okay. And what was there to do once you got there?
Just talking to people, and
Mm-hmm.
wasn't much to do.
Okay. Did you go down to London, or did you just stay up in
No,
Glasgow?
They never got out of Glasgow.
Okay.
You could have went to some of them castles around
Mm-hmm.
there. I never did get to one.
Okay. Now, normally, how long would it take for one of those convoy trips?
I don't know.
Okay. I guess it would depend on the speed of the convoy, because some were fast and some were slow, depending on what they had. All right. So you did that a number of times, and then after doing some convoy runs over to Scotland, what other kind of assignment did you have on the Philadelphia?
We went down to North Africa, invasion of.
Okay.
We were at Safi.
Okay. So that was on the Moroccan coast, sort of on the Atlantic side.
Yeah.
Right. And when you were crossing over, was that a different kind of trip from those convoy runs, or did you do the same things, or
We did the same thing.
now did anything unusual happen on that trip over?
No.
You mentioned to me before we started the interview that there was another ship, a destroyer, the Porter, which I guess that was a little bit later. where the
Yeah.
porter was shooting his torpedo. Okay. Now, when you got across the ocean to North Africa, you got to Safi, were you on deck or below decks when the landings happened?
I don't know.
Do you remember watching landings, or do you think you
No,
were working?
I never seen any landing.
Okay. So you were down in the engine room?
Yeah.
All right. And then, once the landing happened, where did you go from there? Just back across the ocean, or did you go into the Mediterranean?
We never went into the Mediterranean.
Okay.
After I got off of it, it was in the Mediterranean.
Okay. Now, did you, after the landing at Safi, did the Philadelphia just go back to the States, or did it?
Sometime after we went back to the States, I got transferred to the Anthony.
Okay. And the Anthony was a destroyer? All right. Was it a new destroyer?
Brand new, out of the pipe owner.
What does that mean?
Did you, I don't want to went into commission.
Very good. Okay. And where did they launch it? Do you know? Was it launched in Norfolk?
Bath, Maine. I
Bath,
think.
Maine. Okay. Yeah.
And it was put in commission in Boston.
Mm-hmm. Now, did they have an official commissioning ceremony or something?
Oh, yeah.
And were you there for that? Okay. Now, did they let you see that, or did they make you go in the engine room?
I don't remember.
Okay. Now, once the ship was commissioned, did you have a shakedown cruise first?
Yep.
Okay.
We went down to Guantanamo
Mhm.
Bay.
All right. And were there a lot of new recruits on there? Men who hadn't been to sea before?
I don't remember.
Okay. And then,
That's the first combat, you could say,
mm-hmm.
with German submarines. They were down in there. We dropped depth charges on them.
Mm-hmm. Now, were you by yourself at that time, or were you with transport ships?
No, there's other destroyers.
Okay. So,
Shake it down,
mm-hmm.
they try to tear it up.
Mm-hmm.
They were wide open and hard rudder right and hard rudder left. Try to make things fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
from full speed ahead to
Right.
full astern. And they see, you're down in the engine room, everything just shaking.
Mm-hmm.
The big pipes are rattling.
Now, what part of the ship was your station on? Were you toward the middle of the ship, or toward the stern, or?
My battle station, the engine room,
Mm-hmm.
I was the number 2 engine room.
So where is that on the ship?
Oh, about halfway.
Okay. Well, I asked you that in part because a fellow I talked to a while back who crewed on a minesweeper worked in an engine room, and he said the engine room was a good place to be because it was in the middle of the ship, and during the storms and the swells, the bow and the stern would go up and down, but the engine room kind of stayed in the same place. Is that the same on a destroyer, or did you get shaken up a lot?
Well,
Do you remember bouncing around when you were trying to work in the engine room? Okay.
I remember bouncing around on the Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm. In the Philadelphia, were you farther toward the stern, maybe, or?
I don't know, it was top heavy.
Mm-hmm.
It rolled a lot.
Okay.
You,
Yeah. Well, would the?
you hit and you come out this way.
Mm-hmm.
Then you come around and come down and you come up this way again. It was really a roller.
Yeah. Of course, when you were on the Philadelphia, you thought being on a destroyer wouldn't be a very good idea. Were you right, or was being on a destroyer not really any worse than being on a cruiser?
No, not after I got used to it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, when you were on your shakedown cruise, you said you actually encountered German submarines. All right. And then when you encountered a submarine, what would the ship do?
Well, they dropped depth charges.
Mm-hmm. But did they maneuver or
Yeah.
change course quickly, or?
Yeah.
All right. Now, when something like that happened in the engine room, did you know what was going on, or did they just give you orders for? what you
keep
did.
things running. Do what they tell you up on the bridge.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, once you got to Guantanamo, what happened after that?
Well, then we went back to Norfolk,
Mm-hmm.
and we picked up the Wasp, I think it was. One of the new carriers.
Mm-hmm.
Took it out to Honolulu.
All right.
Went down, went through the canal, Panama Canal,
Okay.
went out to water.
And what did you think of the Panama Canal when you got there? Or did you get to see that, or did you still have to be below decks?
Well, if I didn't have the watch, I remember the fresh water.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a tradition. They hose us out, they wash everything down.
Mm-hmm.
Fresh water. All the salt water out.
Right. And then you got out to the Pacific then. Now, was it just your destroyer and the carrier going together, or were there other destroyers?
There's other destroyers. There
Okay.
was 2 or 3 of them.
All right. Now, when you got out to Hawaii, when would that have been? Was that middle of '43 by then, or do you
Well,
have any sense of?
I don't remember.
Well, North Africa was November of '42, and then you would have had to come back across the Atlantic, and then join the ship, do the shakedown cruise. So you're getting into '43 somewhere. All right. Actually, we probably got the statistics on when the ship was commissioned, so we probably have that. After,
Got that up.
well, we can worry about that when we're
Yeah.
checking up after the interview. Now, when you got out to Hawaii, did you get to stop in Pearl Harbor and go ashore?
Yep.
All right. And what did you see when you got there?
Well, see the ship sunk and all that.
Mm-hmm. Now, aside from the Arizonas, which was still sitting there in the harbor, did you see other signs of battle damage, or were things pretty well cleaned up?
It's cleaned up.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, how long did you stay there before you went out again?
I don't know.
Okay.
We went right down into the South Pacific.
Okay.
And the big battles were all over.
Mm-hmm.
Battle of Guadalcanal, and they were all over.
Yeah.
And
I guess you went. Did you stop off at Guadalcanal on your way through? I mean, it would have. The fighting was over there by the time you got there. But
yeah,
did you go through there?
yeah, we were stationed there.
Mm-hmm.
Then we went up. That's when we started going up to Bougainville,
Mm-hmm.
Green Island, and Saipan, and
Right.
Iwo Jima.
Right. You went through. Yeah. Your ship kind of followed course almost due north, Northern Solomon Islands,
Yeah, we went all through that.
and Torquay Bay, and then I guess you were listed as being at Guam, Saipan, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa. Now, when you went on these, what was your ship doing?
We're just taking the LSTs and the landing craft,
Okay. So you had escort duty?
escort them
Okay. Did you do any shore bombardment?
in. Yep.
Okay. Can you remember anything about any of those landings or bombardments in particular, or were there times when did you have a station other than just the engine room?
Yeah, that's the only place I ever
Okay, so you didn't have to do a shift on the anti-aircraft guns or anything like that?
went.
Okay. Now, on a ship like that, did you have different shifts of men who would work on the engines? And so you'd be on and then off?
The 4-hour watch.
Okay. And what would you do when you were not in the engine room?
We tried to keep your right mind.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Get
what?
out, get a little sun, and
Mm-hmm.
it was so hot down there all the time, you couldn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And South Pacific is warm.
Right. But were people allowed to sleep on the decks at night if there wasn't danger around, or did you have to stay below?
I don't know, I always stayed below.
Okay. What could people do for entertainment or anything else when they were off duty?
Well, there wasn't much you could do. They used to And you get to the rear areas
Mm-hmm.
where there wasn't anything going on, like in Guadalcanal, they had a shore you could go over
Mm-hmm.
on the beach and give you a couple cans of warm beer. That was your recreation.
Right. Did they show movies or anything like that?
They had movies
And could they show them on the boat or just?
on the fantail.
All right. Now, as you were
You had
going.
to be way back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, as you were going to any of these different islands, did you ever go to some place where they had a USO show, or
Never seen
that
much.
was not for you? Okay. As you were moving your way north, I mean, you went to a number of places. One of them was Guam, which had been an American territory before the war. And did you get to go ashore there, or did you just stay offshore? Okay. Now, in these places that you went, the farther up you got, the more opposition there was. There was a lot of fight. I mean, not so much fighting on Guam, but there was some. But there was a lot at Iwo Jima, and your ship was there. And also
Iwo
Okinawa.
Jima, we pulled, dropped an anchor,
Mm-hmm.
had a spotter plane, and we fired with the spotter. And we pulled up the anchor and left, and within a few seconds, the Japanese pulled an artillery piece out on a little ledge
Mm-hmm.
and shot up that cannon, just went in after us. Hit it several times.
Mm-hmm.
We just left. That's like I say.
Right.
We was always, something just happening before we got there
Mm-hmm.
or after we left. We lucked out all the time.
But did that Japanese gun, did that hit your ship or just get close to it? On Iwo Jima, you said the Japanese gun was firing out of a cave or something?
They hit the destroyer that we just replaced.
Oh, okay. So they didn't hit you, they hit the next guy.
Yeah.
All right. Now, when you would go with these invasions, would you stay offshore a long time, or would you just be there for a day or two and then go someplace else?
Well, all depends on how long it took.
Okay. So did you stay off the shore of Iwo Jima during the whole campaign, or because that was several weeks?
Well, we was there quite a while.
Mm-hmm. And did you provide fire support during that time, or anti-aircraft cover? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. When was the first time you think that the ships you were with were attacked by kamikazes? Did you get those at Iwo Jima, or
That was Okinawa.
that was only Okinawa? All right. And what was your ship's role in the Okinawa campaign? What were you doing there?
Picket duty.
And what does that mean?
That's, they had several picket stations around Okinawa.
Mm-hmm.
And you were to warn back on Okinawa when the kamikazes were coming.
Mm-hmm. So you were sort of an outer screen or patrol to protect the larger ships and the transports from enemy attack. All right. And did the Japanese attack the picket boats?
Yeah.
Can you describe some of that or what you know about it?
That's what happened to the Porter
Mm-hmm.
and the Brain.
Right.
They got hit.
Those were two other destroyers that were also doing picket
We had
duty.
several of them got sunk.
Mm-hmm. Now, your ship was on picket duty in June of '45 off Okinawa when the USS Brain was hit by kamikazes. Now, you showed me a video about that, but people watching this video will not have seen that. Can you explain a little bit what happened on that occasion?
Well, I don't see anything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm down in the engine room.
Right. And could you hear anything?
I got my battle station was down in the, I had about that much steel between me and the ocean,
Mm-hmm.
and I would stand, have air intake, bring hot air
Mm-hmm.
down, but it's air.
Yeah.
And I was standing there, and I heard that big boom, and I was standing right in front of this air,
Mm-hmm.
and I got hit with water, and I had to go down a little ways, up a little ladder, around a little bit, up a little ladder. I was halfway out of the engine room.
Mm-hmm.
I stood around and looked, everybody was laughing at me. I thought I got hit.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't going to be down there if we were going to get water.
Right. But then, at some point, now was that the explosion when the brain got hit?
No, might have been.
Okay. Well, they might not have been laughing at that point. I don't know. But if an explosion like that happened, would that have been maybe a near miss from a kamikaze?
Near miss.
Okay.
We had 4 or 5 of them.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you ever see any of those yourself, or were you always below decks when
I
they
was down
came?
below all the time.
Okay. Now, when the attack on the brain happened, you were down in the engine room. At what point did you find out what was going on? And did someone tell you the brain had been hit, or did you not know until you got up topside, or?
I didn't know until afterwards.
Okay.
One time I seen when I was in Okinawa, I was taking a shower.
Mm-hmm.
It was quite a while, long time into the campaign there. And I threw my clothes on, and got out. I had to go down topside to the hatch and go down the engine room. And I seen this Jap going by. That's the only time I seen one.
Mm-hmm. Now, what did you see after the brain got hit? I mean, the brain got hit once in the bow and once in midships, blew a big hole in the middle of the superstructure. Did you get a look at that eventually? Were you up on deck eventually after the brain was hit?
I never seen that.
Did you see any of the casualties they took off, or?
No, I just seen the body bag of
Mm-hmm.
the dead. We were going in that night.
Mm-hmm. Now, after that incident, did your ship stay on at Okinawa until the end of the war, or had you gone somewhere else after that?
We stayed there.
Okay.
Then we went up to Sasebo, first ship in there.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I got my rifle and bayonet. The skipper said, "You guys been out here long enough, you should get some kind of a souvenir."
Mm-hmm.
So we went over on the beach, and the big warehouse there full of rifles and bayonets and other stuff. All the good stuff the Marines got.
Mm-hmm.
Sabers and the fancy stuff. But the skipper said, "If you want a rifle and a bayonet, I'll get you one."
All right.
So I got one, and I said, I got it home, and gave the rifle to my brother, and that disappeared somehow.
Mm-hmm.
But I still got the bayonet.
Right. Now, you went to Sasebo sort of after the Japanese surrendered. Did your ship go to Tokyo Bay or just to Sasebo?
We went to Nagasaki.
Okay. And did you get to see Nagasaki?
I seen where the bomb hit.
Mm-hmm.
It vaporized it as far as you could. Nothing there. I got pictures of it.
And did that surprise you when you saw it, or had you heard enough that you were expecting that?
Well, they put us on a truck, flatbed truck, and we toured it.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't know how bad that radiation was
Right.
then. So it was bad.
Mm-hmm. And then did you go to Nagasaki before you went to Sasebo, or did you go to Sasebo first?
Disabled first.
All right. Now, is that where you were based then for a while? Or did you
For
just...
a little while. We got dysentery board ship
Mm-hmm.
while we were there. And
Was that from eating the local food, or...
some bugs flew around somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Remember guys walking around with a bucket in their hand. You know when they're going to go or what.
Right. Now, did you go on shore at Sasebo, or did you just stay on the boat?
We went just for No, I don't think we got off at Sasebo.
Okay.
Nagasaki, they let us get on, took us on that tour.
And did you see many of the Japanese civilians when you got ashore? Or
Not
did
very
they
many.
stay out of your way? All right. Do you know about how long you were based in Japan? Was it just a couple of months or longer than that?
Not very long.
Okay. And when you left Japan, where did you go after that?
We came back to the States. And that's when they, they sent a lot of them home. And they had to send that top watch in the forward engine room. We hit a little rough water. And it got pretty rough. And then air intakes, they put a cover over them.
Mm-hmm.
No water goes on there. And I had to watch, and Bridge called down, and I said that we were taking water in them air intake.
Mm-hmm.
They said, get the covers on them. So I said, all right. I had couple guys out, and they hadn't been out there very long. And they called up and wanted to know how they were getting them on all right.
Mm-hmm.
And I made a smart remark, well, you guys can stand up on a bridge, you can look down, see how they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day, the chief engineer came up to me and said, you had the watch last night? I said, yeah. You better be careful who you talk, how you talk on the phone. You were talking to a commander,
Mm-hmm.
he would just hitch you right back to the
Oh.
States. If he'd been ship's company, I would have got court-martialed. He
Well-
said, let it go.
Okay. Well, on a ship like that, did everybody know everybody else? I mean, did
Well, yes.
the officers knew who all the men were?
Yeah, it's not like on a big ship.
Mm-hmm.
Tin can sailors, they're a special breed.
So in general, would your own captain look out for you? And
Yeah, he used to come down there and once in a while and talk to her.
mm-hmm.
Did you read that? Letter he wrote to us?
Yeah, I wrote to the guys.
Can you tell us what he said?
I don't remember what he said, but he mentioned, you know what you're gonna go
Mm-hmm.
through. You can't be, you can't forget it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the kamikazes were out for you.
Now, when you were out there on the ship and you were getting attacked by the kamikazes and that kind of stuff was going on, were you ever worried they were going to hit you, or you figured sooner or later they would, or did you not think?
You never know.
Mm-hmm.
We had one, if you know anything about a destroyer, there's not very much freeboard
Mm-hmm.
between the water and the deck, the main deck.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're going flank speed, the boat is underwater, the fantail, the
Mhm.
back. And we had a kid by the name of P.J. Hooks. He was on the battle station. He was on top side. And he was standing there talking to this guy. And the guy turned around and looked. He was gone. He got washed overboard.
Mm-hmm.
They made a hard rudder, and it leaned down, the weight come over, and flipped him right off.
Yeah.
And how he ever didn't hit any of those Y guns or depth charges on the fantail.
Mm-hmm.
He missed everything. Lived in the water. If you don't stop and pick anybody up,
Mm-hmm.
you're under attack. You keep on going. We got him back a couple of days later. And he
Did
went
some-
right up to the captain,
Mm-hmm.
wanted to hold church service on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have a chaplain. We had a doctor, but no chaplain. And P.J. Hooks, he became a preacher too.
Mm-hmm.
After he got out of the road.
He said, I've had it, I'm gonna do it.
He must have made a promise to God to get him
You're
saved.
right.
Did another
He saved me, yeah.
Did another ship pick him up?
They finally found him,
Mm-hmm.
and they picked him up. We got him back a few days later.
All right. Now, did your ship take very many casualties? Were there men?
We had two casualties.
Mm-hmm.
One, chief's quarters. One blew up right alongside the ship. It knocked the radio
Mm-hmm.
off the bulkhead. Flew and he hit him in the head. Just nicked him.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one. Another one, they had blackout curtains on the ladders. So no light would go out
Mm-hmm.
when you pulled your hatch open.
Right.
And you had a eye bolt on there. His ring finger caught on that eye bolt, and he slipped at the same time and fell.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked up there, his finger was hanging up there.
Ouch.
Pulled it right out.
Well, if those were your only casualties, you had a pretty lucky ship.
You betcha.
All right. Now, how long then did you stay with that ship after the war was over?
I was on it when they put it in mothballs.
Okay, and when was that? Was that in 46 or?
Yeah.
'Cause I guess you were discharged late in 46, I think. Was that. Now, did you serve on any other ships, or was that the last one?
Well, I was on a couple more, but it was just for sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
They pushed me around.
Now, why did you stay in the Navy as long as you did?
Well, because I thought the war was going to be over, and I extended
Mm.
my time so I could make a few $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
Then I got over quick. You dropped the A-bomb and
Mhm.
they quit.
All right. Now, at the end of your term of service, did they want you to re-enlist, or were they just letting everyone go by then?
Well, they wanted you to,
Okay. Well, and what could they offer you at that point?
well, I could have made first class.
Mm-hmm. Right. But you decided not to stay.
You know, after I got my 2 years, then I had enough.
Okay. And so then you're discharged at the end of 46. What did you do after you got out of the Navy?
I went to school.
Mm-hmm.
They said I wasn't smart enough to go to school.
So what kind of work did you go into?
I worked in the Brunswick.
Mm-hmm.
They had a defense division. We made parts for McDonnell and
Mhm.
Douglas and Grumman and Lockheed and wing panels and nose wheel doors and Bombay doors.
Now, did you stay with them for a long time, or?
Yeah, 33 years.
That's a pretty long time. All right. Now, to look back on things now, how do you think your time in the Navy wound up affecting you? Did you learn things, or did it change the way you looked at the world?
Well, it was a good experience.
Mm-hmm. What do you think you got out of that experience?
Well, I got out of life.
Yeah, you did.
Got out alive, you're right.
Well, do you think you learned some things just about how to work with people or deal with difficult situations or that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any individual events or things that happened to you while you were in the Navy that kind of come back to you that you haven't mentioned here yet?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Can you remember any stories he's told that he's leaving out?
No, I know he's told a lot of them, yeah, but just, yeah.
All right. Well, in that case, thank you for inviting me to come out here, and thanks for taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you.
All right. That's a wrap.